My mom bragged about my sister's perfect house, so I told them they skipped my housewarming. At a family dinner, Mom was bragging again, like she always does. She lifted her glass and said, "Your sister Paige finally got the perfect house, so when are you going to achieve something like that?" Everyone looked at me, waiting for me to shrink. I didn't. I just smiled and said, "Already did, Mom." Mom blinked like she didn't understand English. Paige stopped mid-bite. Dad's fork hung in the air. Uncle Gary lowered his beer and stared at me. Mom's smile turned sharp. "What do you mean you already did?" I nodded once. "I bought a 4-bedroom colonial in Riverside Heights. I've been living there since January." Paige's face drained. "Riverside Heights? Those houses are like $500,000 minimum." Mom shook her head hard. "No, you're lying. You work at that little marketing firm." "I do," I said, "but the company got acquired last year. My shares vested in December." The table went silent again, the kind of quiet where you can hear someone's glass set down too loud. Dad cleared his throat. "Why didn't you tell us?" I looked around at all of them. "I tried. Remember my birthday 3 months ago? I invited everyone. I said it was at my new place, a housewarming and birthday party." Mom's eyes narrowed like she was searching for an excuse. "We couldn't make it. You didn't go because Paige had yoga," I said. "That was the text I got. Yoga." Paige stared at her plate like it might save her. Dad rubbed his forehead. Aunt Joyce tried to smile. "Well, congratulations, honey. That's wonderful." For a second I thought Mom might actually stop. Then she leaned forward and said, "If this is true, why are you still driving that old Honda?" I let out a short laugh because it was so on brand, it almost felt like a joke. "Because it runs perfectly fine," I said. "I don't need my car to prove anything." Mom's cheeks went red. 20 minutes earlier, she'd been talking up Paige's BMW lease like it was a trophy. Paige jumped in fast, like she needed to take something back. "So you're rich now?" I didn't answer that. I just pulled out my phone and unlocked it. "I'm doing okay," I said, and I turned the screen so they could see. It was a Tesla configurator, fully loaded, sitting in my cart. "This one gets delivered next week." Paige made a small choking sound. "A Tesla? Those are like 80 grand. "Mine's 92, I said. "But who's counting?" Uncle Gary whistled under his breath. Dad leaned forward, squinting at my screen like it might be fake. "Vanessa," he said, "what did they pay you?" "Enough that I could put a down payment on a second house if I wanted," I said. And then I immediately regretted how that sounded. Not because it wasn't true, but because I could feel Mom turning it into a story where I was the problem. Sure enough, she slapped her napkin on the table. "This is ridiculous. You're just showing off now." I put my phone away and kept my hands on the edge of the table so I wouldn't shake. "Am I showing off?" I asked. "Or am I finally sharing my life and you just weren't paying attention?" Mom opened her mouth, but Paige cut in, voice tight. "Why didn't you tell me?" I looked right at her. "I did. I invited you to my house. You didn't come." Paige's eyes flicked to Mom, then away. Dad tried to patch it up like he always does. "We're proud of you," he said too fast. "Maybe you can host the next family dinner at your place." Mom made a loud clatter with a plate like she hadn't heard him. Aunt Joyce's smile faded. I felt that familiar heat in my chest, the one that shows up when I'm being judged in my own family. So I stood up and slid my chair back. "Sure," I said. "You can come if you actually want to." Mom snapped. "Don't be dramatic." I grabbed my purse. "I'm not," I said. "I'm being clear." Uncle Gary raised his beer a little and muttered, "Good for you, kid." Mom's eyes flashed. "After everything we've done for you?" I cut her off before she could build momentum. "You don't get to compare me to Paige and then act surprised when you don't know anything about my life," I said. "You missed my birthday. You missed my housewarming. And tonight you asked me, in front of everyone, when I'd finally achieve something. I already did." The room was so quiet, Paige's fork tapping her plate sounded like a drum. Dad's voice went soft. "Vanessa, stay. Let's talk." I shook my head. "Not like this." I walked to the door, and behind me I heard Mom hiss something at Paige under her breath. Paige called my name, smaller than before. "Is it really true? The house?" I paused with my hand on the knob. "Yes," I said. "All of it." Mom scoffed, but her voice wobbled. "You're turning this into a fight." I looked back one last time. "No," I said. "You already made it a competition. I'm just opting out." Then I opened the door and stepped out into the cold air, letting it hit my face like a reset. Behind me, Dad said my name again, but I didn't turn around. Now my mom is saying I'm arrogant for revealing my house. Was I wrong?